Welcome back to the recap show. On today's episode, we will be recapping the NWSL semifinal. We will be previewing the NWSL final, and we will be joined by special guest, former San Diego Wave coach, Casey Stoney. If you love what we're doing here on the recap show, please like, rate, and subscribe to YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's get into the daily discussion.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are here with the daily discussion after a very exciting semifinal round of the NWSL playoffs.
We are. We're going to recap the semifinal, and we're going to look forward to the final.
And we're going to be at the final.
And we will. Good point.
Yeah, I know. So we're very excited here at the recap show because we're taking the show on the road.
And rumor has it that the first ever live recap show is going to happen at the final.
Oh, gosh. I hope it really does now. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today was, often people use this kind of adage that a team is more than the sum of its parts. And I actually thought that concept was on display at the semifinals in the two semifinals games and actually really impacted some of the results, and not just of these games, but the performances of these teams over the course of the season. And I think it's an easy thing to say, like 1 + 1 = 3, like a little magic sauce, right? But in football, there's so many tiny little things that you have to do to get chemistry, to get magic. So I wanted to hear kind of your take on which are the best teams holistically, and how did they get that extra sauce to be able to make it to the finals?
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you said sauce, because I do think about teams as ingredients, and no team is going to have the same ingredients because different players, different situations.
No two salts are the same.
No two salts are the same. It's different coaches, same budgets sometimes. But I love that you said this, because when I'm actually looking at these teams and how each of these teams are being successful, I really look at like their ingredients. And a lot of times we come back to this, like, it's not about having the best 11 players on the field. It never is, actually.
It's such a heartbreaking thing about sports, but it's so true. It breaks my heart when the best players aren't on the field.
Yeah,
you know?
Because even when you say best players, what are you even referring to?
So true. So subjective.
And also, like, two players, like if you have two really great players that play like a certain position on the field, like, it is actually better if you just don't have the other one on the field. But this is like one of probably has to be one of the hardest things about coaching, is getting the ingredients just right. And I do want to highlight Orlando in being able to do this. And this is why. I'm going to take two players in particular. So I think Seb Hines, and this is why he should and he will win Coach of the Year, regardless if Orlando wins or loses, is because of these little tweaks in the ingredients. What he has done with a 38-year-old Marta, one of the most special, decorated players in the world, is something that I think a lot of coaches can learn from. And this is the idea that Marta, at one point in her career, was Barbara Banda. Played that position, had all the attention on her, had all the energy of a, however old Barbara Banda is.
And all the responsibility.
And all the responsibility, all of that. And yet she is not Barbara Banda anymore. She is 38-year-old special Marta. And the way that he has created a system that is allowing her special sauce to absolutely shine is a sight to behold. And I think for all of us that want to watch Marta play forever and want to watch her do the special things in the game that only her in the whole entire world can do, like, that is something that I love watching.
So how does he do that? What is it about the way that Orlando plays that allows Marta to shine?
Well, first off, he doesn't have her leading the line. He doesn't have her leading the press. He plays a way where he has two defensive midfielders. Like, he has so he has created a system around her that supports her, that doesn't ask too much of her defensively, that actually like this team builds up the ball. It's not a transition team other than the moments where they can actually transition Barbara Banda in really special ways. It's not a team that just goes. It's a team that builds up. If you're going to play Marta, for instance, in Kansas City's system, Marta will be irrelevant. You will not see the best parts of Marta, and all of us will be saying, Marta's finished. She can't keep up with the game anymore. And all of us would be sad because we'd be like, that's the end of it. And she would lose her joy. But I have never seen a more impactful, more joyful Marta in, I think, the whole time I've seen her in the NWSL than I'm seeing her right now.
Yeah, I love this. We talked about the game when we were watching it, and watching both Banda and then Marta's goals back to back, and the difference between them, and the way that they kind of complement themselves, and they kind of make it so that the defenders have such a nightmare that you're like working so hard to get one thing right, and then the next thing is going to go wrong. And it is really beautiful. And I think, throughout my career, I've been able to see how stars are made, and people think stars are born. And I think that maybe that's true. Like maybe like we talk a lot about like the magic of being a vessel and be able to carry that weight, but you set people up for success. And I actually remember in 2015 in the World Cup how our team shape changed, and certain players got eliminated from the lineup that were supposed to be there, and some players came into it, and some players kept moving positions because Jill, who was the coach, was looking for the special sauce to make the players that she wanted to place her bets on shine.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting predicament because you have to trust in those players, and they have great responsibility. But I think that it's a beautiful image of how success and greatness and stardom and all of those things, it really is a team effort, and nobody can go alone.
Yep. Because there's egos in play too. Like it's not just about the how good players are, like as footballers. There's also personalities. Like you have to put those all into the ingredients too. Like there's hierarchies, there's personalities. And honestly, the whole season is kind of figuring out what are the right ingredients. And then you're going to get hit by a lot of adversities, but like what are the right ingredients? And I love that. I think there's a really beautiful balance of the right ingredients in Orlando.
So food for thought for all you reimaginers out there. When you're building teams, how do you make 1 + 1 = 3? How do you make your stars shine? I'm not sure, but we're going to keep trying to figure it out. Now, okay, fun parts. Tobin's takes. So looking back at the 2 semifinal matches, we are getting the one and the only Tobin Heath's hot takes.
Oof.
Hopefully these are a little
about to heat
less
up in here.
Spicy than last week.
Well, I just want to say that people got like a little bit sensitive to maybe what I said about Gotham last week.
Oh, great.
But people don't know that the question was funny because it did ask me what I forget what the question was. But I did go on a separate rant about another team that was completely cut. So, and the Gotham one was way more PG. So I will say.
So you all can just speculate.
And I also will say I was right. Also.
Okay, so let's start with vibe checks.
Yeah.
4 teams played. 2 teams remain. What vibes are you liking? What are the signs that you see of a team that could go all the way?
I mean, the 2 teams that are in the final, I don't want to go like Orlando again, but there was a moment in Orlando that I hope everybody noticed. Orlando was down 1-0. They tied the game 1-1. McCutcheon, who is just a completely underrated player that needs huge praise in what she's doing in that midfield for Orlando. She comes in, perfect timing, beautiful finish for Orlando. But what happens next is the greatest vibe that this is what I love about football. And this is when you know this is a team. No, they don't go celebrate. They don't go like McCutcheon on the back shirt. They literally, she gets the team together and they start talking about what they're going to do. They start looking at each other in the eyes and you can see everybody's connection to one another. Everybody's speaking the same language and they're like, we're not happy it's tied. We're going to go win this thing. And that to me, like in that moment, we'll probably talk about the betting. In that moment, I would put all my money on Orlando to win that game.
Okay, do you think that you got that sense from being trained as a U.S. women's national team player where you're like looking at the tiny, subtle movements after the ball, you get scored on and who jogs up to the center circle with the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cultural. Like this is the glue of the team. And there are certain players that bring this more than other players. Talk about personalities, like we're talking about like all the ingredients that are those ones that kind of like glue the team together and create this type of culture. It can come from a lot of places, but like that is cultural. Like I remember actually Pep Guardiola, like he was trying to change the culture at Man City by getting players to look at each other's eyes, getting players to encourage one another. And some teams, you have to train this more in the same way that some teams you have to train crosses more. Some teams you have to train culture more. I don't know if this Orlando team had to be trained culture more, but like whatever they've had to do to get to this point where that moment happened, they have it.
Maybe it was 10 years of being at the very bottom of the table and now winning and they just love each other.
I mean,
I would. If I had been down at the bottom of that table for that long, I would be kissing everybody next to me.
Yeah. And on that part, I feel like those Orlando fans, like in the beginning of the game, I looked at the stands and I go, it was so crazy going from Rowdy Field to Orlando Stadium. I don't know their stadium name. But it was not Rowdy Field, the opposite of Rowdy Field. And at first I was kind of like, come on, this is a semifinal. You have the best players in the world. You have the GOAT of the world. Like, and then at the end of the game or halfway through, those fans were waving those flags. They were like all up in it. And I was thinking to myself, like, this is what makes this stadium packed next year.
Okay.
All these fans being like, I just had the time of my life.
Love that. And the power of body language is so huge in sports. Actually studied. I remember when they were like pounding at our head about penalty kicks and how the team that celebrates the most always wins. And then about how important body contact is in penalty shootouts. And so Ben, I remember when I would go up to take my penalty, I would make Alyssa Nair give me a fist pump because I was like trying to like get some of her like energy into my body. And I'm like,
yeah, this is a real thing. So we, as a national team, actually, we always talk about the marginal games. So went into 15 and 19 wins. 19 in particular, body language is a huge one. Christen just pointed out 2 massive ones. And another one was on corner kicks. We had some players that put their hands on their knees. And
the real ones know who we're talking about.
The real ones know. And our coach said that was a sign of weakness and that you were tired and it was not allowed. And players actually were like, no, I'm not tired. This is like me, like, this is my like stance. And it was like a huge part of the type of team that we wanted to demonstrate collectively in terms of what we were about. And it's a powerful image. And that coming together of Orlando was a powerful image.
Well,
and to contrast that, or not to contrast that, but to actually add on to that, Washington had a powerful image too. When they won that game, the pictures, I mean, hang them in the Louvre. These pictures were incredible. The passion, the stadium, like what they're building in Washington is special. And the fact that that coach has only had half a season and this is happening, that team will be the top of the league come next season and will have the Shield next season and will probably be back in the final.
Wow, you're getting really aggressive with these predictions.
Woo!
Okay,
Woo.
Well, this was supposed to be Tobin's takes, but it is Tobin's take because we have spoken for too long. But don't be afraid because we are going to be right back with a preview for the final. With our friends at EAFC, we are going to preview the final and spotlight a few of the most impactful players.
Ooh, fun. I wonder how my player cards will compare to my predictions.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, looking at Washington versus Orlando.
Yes.
How do you want to think through your selected players?
Well, when you build a team, everybody talks about this idea of like the strength of the team is in the spine, like down the center of the field. So I think we should go through the spine and figure out who is the strongest team based on how it's built.
Amazing. Let's start with goalkeepers.
So I think, the right answer would be to go with Morehouse because she's been the best goalkeeper this year, but we have to go with Kingsbury because she has the hot hand. She was absolutely lights out in the semifinal.
Momentum is really big in the playoffs.
It is huge.
All right, center backs.
This one's tough. I'll have to go with the combinations of Sams and Strom because I think Sams is another reincarnation of Ali Krieger. We talked about who did we talk about? Merritt Mathias reincarnated another player, but Sams, I feel like I don't know if it's like the tight low bun and dark like hair, or like the pointing and body positioning and like always kind of just like doing the thing. But yeah, I think the Orlando defense is one to
reckon with.
Midfielders. I think I'm going to keep going with the middle parts. Hirschfeld. I mean, like Hal Hirschfeld has had one of the best rookie seasons we have ever seen. The consistency, the stability that she gives that team, both offensively and defensively.
Is she up for Rookie of the Year?
She is up for. Is she? Yes. She's up for Rookie of the Year. Will she get it? No, but great rookie season.
All right. And finally, the most fun position of all.
I mean, okay.
Oh, I didn't even have to say what it was.
I mean,
everybody knows. The number 9.
The number 9. Okay, so when we talk about nines, we're talking between Hatch and Banda. And look, Barbara Banda is, lights out. She's a one of one right now. But Barbara Banda walked off injured. If Barbara Banda is unavailable for this game absolutely goes to Washington. Other than that, looking at the spine of the team, Orlando should win this game.
Beautiful.
And that was my first prediction way back when.
Oh, that's very true. We'll see if all of your prophetic predictions come to fruition. Here at the Recap Show, Tobin and I are very lucky to be able to interview some of the game's best coaches, players, and business folks. Tobin, who do we have today?
Today, we have former England international and former Manchester United and San Diego Wave coach, Casey Stoney.
Woo-woo! Let's bring her in.
Welcome, Casey Stoney.
Yay! Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Big smiles. We're so happy that you're here. It's been a while.
It's been a long time. I've seen Kristen before I've seen you, so it's great to see you both.
I know. We're older and wiser. So Kristen asked that I start this interview with a warm and fuzzy story about Casey Stoney, and I said, warm and fuzzy Casey Stoney?
Don't think they got together, do they?
She came up like...
No, I do have a lot of happy memories.
Okay, let's hear them.
No, I thought you were going to kick it off by one.
Oh, well, mine's not warm and fuzzy either. But this is very emblematic of how I experienced you as a coach. Obviously, Tobin and I played for Casey at Manchester United in a year of COVID and mayhem.
Oof.
And it was very, very cold in Manchester, unlike in beautiful Los Angeles. And we're having major field problems. As I'm sure you remember.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah. And we would get to the facility and we weren't really sure if we were able to train, and there was snow on the ground. And I will say you were quite angry by the whole situation, rightfully, as we all were. And I think we went out to see the pitch to check it out. And there you were with the snowplow.
It wasn't a snowplow, though.
It was a road sign.
Yeah.
It was a road barrier. Yeah. Well, we had no ground staff. So there was no ground staff. The snow, and we had a game the next day. I'm like, we need a train. So we went out, we grabbed whatever we could to try and get at least half a pitch, and it was like a road sign. I remember pushing across. I think we had the head of operations. I think Lorna was out there doing it with us. I was like, we're getting half a pitch clean. These girls are training.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think it showed that you were very hardworking and dedicated, but I was also like, she's insane. It's so cold. I don't want to train.
Yeah. I could tell you just weren't used to the cold.
No,
we were.
But you were really excited about the cold all the time.
I know.
Yeah, you had such a good attitude about it.
I grew up in LA, so it was an experience. This one
Get
year
to wear
we're going to be cold.
Yeah.
And then come home, towards.
I do think Casey Stoney, and I think that if we played with you, because we're like not too far off in age, I feel like.
Wait, you two played against each other?
But we never played with each other.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I feel like because I think you probably were the same as a player as now you're as a coach, but like you're very much like a lead by example type. So there was never like a time where like if you were out like pushing Snow off the field, we were like, well, we got better train hard today.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, and there were like, we came in early and you were there earlier. You were already on the bike, you know? And I feel like it was just like such a unique culture for me. And I hope you know that it was really inspirational in the way that you led. And, you know, I sometimes think, how in the world did we ever end up at Manchester United? Like, how did we end up at Manchester United?
COVID.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, when I got the call to say that you guys were potentially going to sign, I was like, someone's joking with me here. Like, this is someone's pulling my leg. And then the next thing, it was like, no, they're on the plane, they're coming. And it was like, we had the call, and I know we chatted through some stuff. And then it was like, right, they're definitely coming. They're on the plane. And then you guys turned up, and I think I was really grateful you came, because I think what you were able to share was a mentality from here that I don't think we necessarily have in the English game. And I think you brought that. And I'll always just be authentically me, which is early, hardworking. And I was the same as a player. Like and as a head coach, I'm the same. I'm never going to ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself, you know? So those standards are set from the start. And I thought what you brought and left was a mentality that I think our players had never experienced or witnessed before. And I thought that was so refreshing. I learned a lot from you guys. You know, I'd never played in America. I didn't understand that kind of competitive edge. I was super competitive. Sometimes I thought I should have played tennis, because I was like, at least I haven't got to rely on anyone else then. You know?
That says a lot.
But yeah. But then I was like, you know, you guys come, and I thought it was just so refreshing. And I know it was only a season, but I think it was a season that left a lasting impact at the club.
Yeah, what was that like? If you were to sum up like your early kind of memories of the difference in mentality, because people talk about this a lot, and I feel like, you know, you've now experienced it, you know, as playing against the U.S., you know, coaching U.S. players, coaching in the WSL, now coaching in the NWSL. Like, what were those early like glimpses that you saw in Christen and I that were different?
I think that winning mentality, like the approach to the professionalism, in terms of the way you prepped yourselves for training, the way you approach training. I remember you coming over and shaking my hand and saying, hi, coach. And I was like, oh, that's never happened before. So I was like, there was a respect thing there. And I think just bringing that, whatever it takes to win, to prepare yourselves, to make sure that you're professional in everything you do, your approach to everything, the detail that you put into everything, and also then how you drove others. And you were unapologetic about it, like, we're going to be better, but you did it in such a positive way. I think it's such a positive way of like calling people up and making sure that the standard was held. And I remember having a conversation with you about like, you know, we got to stop missing. And Christen was like, no, because if we keep telling people to stop missing, they're going to stop shooting. Actually, we need to reframe it as like, keep shooting, we're getting closer, because the closer we're getting, we're putting pressure on the opposition, they're going to start feeling it. And I was like, oh, I'm 38 and I'm like, that's such a different way of like, we're reserved, we're British people, we see negatives, you guys see positives. And I just even that conversation, I was like, yeah, you're right. Okay, how do we look at this differently? And I thought, you know, the players, obviously with your experience and what you'd won and what you'd achieved, looked up to you. But I think everything you did for the players was always done with the best intent to win. Since being here, it's about win. Win, attack. And I was like, right, okay, we can't attack every moment. You know, we have to find a way to attack. And then I'd plan sessions and competitions. I'd be like, right, how are they going to cheat this to win? And I'd have to think about how they're going to try and find a way to do this the simplest way.
Cheaters.
Yeah, like Alex Morgan would be like, oh, we got to get to there. She was like, oh, can I do it in one touch? And I'm like, oh, now, okay. So now I've got to be really specific, really detailed, and I've got to keep the rules very, very short so that they can't cheat it, so we actually get to where we want to go. And even the fun stuff, it was like about winning. Yeah. You know, win. And I was like, I didn't need to drive competition here. I felt in England I had to make the environment competitive and drive a competitive environment, whereas that was something I encouraged here, and I just made sure that everything was competitive with what we did. So yeah, I think there's big differences to way we see the game, you know, because obviously used to games over here that are high scoring, attacking, we got to score all the time. And sometimes just going, right, we've been away from home. We've been 3-1 down. We've got back to 3-3. Let's take the point, but we'd lose the game trying to score, you know? Yeah. And I was like, okay, so how do I balance that with our need to pick up points and get a point and the players' mentality around winning? Because you don't want to lose that. That's such a key thing. But actually saying, right, okay, well, when we're not at our best, every point counts when you're trying to get into playoffs and you're trying to win championships. So it was a kind of compromise all the time of like, what am I prepared to give up? What do I need? And what can I take from the players to learn so that I can help them get better?
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I was in small-sided, like in our optional postseason training, and we were winning in small-sided, and they threw the ball, and they're like, last ball, and I just kicked it straight out of bounds. So I was thinking when you said, like, I don't cheat. That's what she means.
Yeah. You're the ultimate cheaters. We'll find a way to win.
Finding a way to win. I'm like, how are they going to find a way to manipulate this game to win? So I was like, right, okay.
And it's like, this is postseason. It doesn't matter. I'm there because I showed up, and then I'm just like, I won. I'm like, wait, are we here to get better?
And you're just like so happy driving home. You're like, I won.
Perfect example.
But I actually think, Casey, like if you were to do a masterclass course, it would be like, how do you create a new team? Like Manchester United, like that was your first real coaching gig, like your first time as a head coach. You built that team from scratch. You did it phenomenally. Like we're talking about from players to development to culture to winning. And then you did it again in San Diego, the exact same thing. Like what are these, like, what is the secret to
And I would actually
building
amend the question to like a master class on creating culture from scratch.
People ask me this all the time, and I'll be really honest. I've learned of so much throughout my playing career of like what I didn't like and what wasn't good, rather than what was good. Like I picked a lot of stuff up that I thought, you know what? Okay, that coach really cared for me. That made me feel good. Okay, so now I'm invested in the care aspect, and they cared about me as a person. They cared about my development. Okay, so that meant a lot to me. How do I always make sure that the environment has some fun in it? Because when we picked up the ball as a little girl, we picked up the ball because we loved the game. That shouldn't change just because it's a career and a job now. How do we make sure that we are focused on a goal and an objective? Because we have to win. We want to win. Like I have to win to keep my job ultimately, but we want to win because success breeds success. That means more little girls pick up the ball and play. That means that, you know, I've got 2 little girls. I want them to aspire to be in the game in some way, shape or form. It means that more people want to pay to come and watch. It means more money comes in sponsorship and marketing, and then more money comes back into the game. And for me, culture is something that's lived, worked on and breathed every single day. It's about people. Our business is about people. Yeah. It's about how we value our people, how we engage with our people, how we inspire our people, how you can lead with humility, because I don't always get it right. You know, one of the big lessons I had when I first arrived here was like, I'm going to have to build a lot of trust here. These players don't trust coaches. You know, so I spent the first 3 to 4 months just building trust and standing in front of a room and saying I'm going to do something and then doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to stand up and say it, but not do it. And then holding my hand up when I didn't get it right. Because if I don't show that it's okay for me to make mistakes, how are they going to be, lose that fear of making mistakes themselves? Because I think the biggest lessons you learn sometimes are through the mistakes you make.
Yeah.
When you think about, you know, you're not I say to coaches all the time, you're not in a maths lesson getting screamed at by your teacher. You're not in a science lesson getting screamed at. Like, how do we give players a framework and freedom, but guidance and support, and then we coach them? And it's my job to know the details, give you what you need, and you take what you need as a player, and you leave what you don't need. And how do you create a culture of honesty, openness, transparency, and play a voice? It's their environment, you know. How do you want to find out that you're not in the team or in the team? You know, and I went through a process of that at both clubs, asking the players, giving them options. Do you want a text? Do you want a face-to-face conversation? Do you want a phone call? And I'll do that at a certain time.
It's awesome.
So that you can come back in the next day and be a good teammate. Because if you're finding out in the team meeting right before you're about to go out and train, I'm not giving you a chance to react in a positive way. So just learning I had some pretty rough experiences as a player. And I was like, okay, so how would I have done that differently? And I don't always get it right. And when I don't get it right, I sit to a player and I say, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Could I have managed that differently for you? How could I have done it differently? And I think that's just about me as a person being me. I think building a team is about the characters that you bring into. I do a lot of background on the players that I'm bringing in, the characters that I'm bringing in the building. I want winners, but I want people that are prepared to work for the team, work for themselves. We have to be innately selfish as athletes because it's our career and we have to go where we want to go. But you've also got to sometimes put yourself to the side and work for the team and do what's right for the team. So knowing who you're bringing in, we used to speak at Man United, we called it the furry strawberry analogy, because when you have a pot of strawberries in the fridge, if you get one that's furry, if you don't take that out, the next one's getting furry.
Oh, like moldy?
Moldy. Moldy. And the next one's getting moldy, and the next one's getting moldy. So I'm like, if we can avoid putting a moldy strawberry in there to start with, it's not gonna
So that's your player recruitment metaphor?
Yeah.
Don't get any moldy furry strawberries.
No moldy furry strawberries. Keep them out. Keep them out. Take it out.
Take it out.
And that's also a part of the job, is if you recognise that you make mistakes, if you've made a mistake and you can't, and you try and intervene and you help the person to be a better teammate. If they can't, then you've got to change it.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure that you protect your culture at all costs, and you've got to make sure that, like I said, you've got a competitive edge, you've got fun, you bring in the right characters. But it starts with you as a leader. I think it really does. I think, I said to you guys earlier, I would never ask players to do anything I wasn't willing to do myself. And the fortunate bit I have as a coach is I've been in every position. Yeah. I've been dropped. I've been left out. I've played. I've not played. I found out I lost the England captaincy watching a TV show, So, that's probably the lowest point in my career. And I'm like, right, how would I have done that differently? Okay, so they're all lessons that I've learned. But again, I still make mistakes all the time. I just try to make sure that I learn from it and get it right next time.
Yeah, I think we immediately recognized that as being very different from anything that we had ever experienced in coaching.
It's empathetic leadership, which I almost would have said doesn't belong in sports because I had never seen it. I think that in the US, we are used to everyone being weeded out. So I'll tell you didn't make the squad right before you go out to training to see if you can be professional. And if not, you're gone, almost like you let kill the week off, it through such extreme measures all the time.
It's always a test. So you always got to be on guard.
Which is it does, the week don't survive, right?
Yeah.
So that's so much of what.
Because you would hear these glorified stories of that happening, somebody getting cut, but then instead of being bitter or pissed off, then
they come and they have such a good training.
Yeah,
and
then all of a sudden they're just kidding. We just wanted to see what was going to happen,
Yeah. So I think it's it does have a place, and it does, it does get to a certain level of success. But I think to have a model where your coach or a leader can make decisions because they're trying to imagine how you might feel. That sounds great, but I think what's so cool about you is you've done it with success. And once you start, it's almost how I think about flow state. It's a nice idea, right? But you can't really believe it until you're doing it and it's working. And I think with you, you've been able to get the most out of players because you are leading with empathy and you're truly trying to get them to be their best, not just saying if you're not your best, you're getting cut. So that's my only motivator is fear.
Yeah.
Which is really unique and really special. And I remember that right away that when we got there, we were what is this?
Yeah. It does give you the feeling as a player though, that you would run through a brick wall for you.
Yeah.
There was something about that style of leadership that really inspired the players, inspired me to care about what you thought of me as a person, what you thought of my performance. I don't know how, it was a feeling that I had. And when I think about that particular team at United, those young, talented players that you somehow got onto the squad, we can talk about the teams and the players. We had Elatun, we had LJ, we had Alessia, we had Mary, we had Zell.
So many.
It's insane.
Future English internationals,
and none of those players
never stepped.
Were even capped.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah, I think as well. There's empathetic leadership. There's also, it's not Disneyland in my environments. There's still standards to be held. we're still here to do a job. Like,
you're a tough coach.
You're still going to be held accountable, you know, as I should be too, you know, but we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
You know, and we're going to go on the journey together, and we're going to be in this place together, and we're going to learn together. Like, you know, if you're having 2 or 3, 4 bad performances, you're probably not going to be in the team after that.
Yeah.
Well, I've probably sat down with you after the first or second game, and we're looking at it and we're seeing why and how can we help you. And then if it's not improving, then there is that. And, you know, if you're late or you're letting the team down in a different way, there's standards to be held. But like, why are you late? Is there anything going on in your life? Is there any problems? Is there any challenges? We don't just jump to, well, you're late, and like there's other stuff going on. So I think understanding the person behind the athlete's really important, because everyone's got a background, everyone's got different experiences, where have they come from, what motivates them, because one shoe fits all approach for me doesn't work, and generations are changing as well. You know, and how you coach people becomes different. So yeah, like I can be tough, you know, but I also will remember at every moment that my words matter, and what I say matters, and the impact I have on people can be either positive or negative. And some people will have had a negative experience of me as a coach, for sure. You know, people that aren't necessarily playing, but they'll still feel valued. You know,
I think, I also remember like a level of vulnerability that you showed and that you also like brought out from us. I would say that for me, like the way I kind of see myself is I try to come into my environment and be very professional and very polished. And I remember you saying something like, oh, you're lucky it's COVID, because sometimes I bring in giant spiders. And I was like, oh, thank God it's COVID. Because I wouldn't want necessarily the group to be able to see me like outside of my comfort zone.
We did a lot of stuff before you guys got there. And I remember someone saying, I don't think Kristen's going to want to do that, you know? And we did like zip wiring UK Ninja. We did bring in like big snakes and spiders. We did sumo wrestling. Are you
still into that?
We didn't do it as much here. I'm still into it because I think taking people out of their comfort zone sometimes is a really, because then you see people's different parts of their character. We're vulnerable together. Like, I can't stand spiders. I can't. And I held a tarantula, and I'm like, these girls are seeing me at my weakest right now, you know? And sometimes that's like a real good thing, just to put the ball away. Be people together, learn a little bit new stuff about each other. And it's definitely something, you know, if and when I get back in, it's something that I will be looking to do again, because I think it's just such a unique way of bringing people together.
Yeah. Let's talk about the fight for equity and the fight for progress that we all took part in at United. Obviously, it was, you know, it's a part of our game everywhere, right? So every club, every team I've ever been on, there's always a dialogue about how we can make things better for the future. But I think it was a unique experience, again, that we shared with you, because coaches are sometimes in an awkward position between a player and a club and someone who's making decisions on resources, and you have got a little bit of insider information, but, you know, you're kind of in between. How did you approach trying to make the environment better at United, and knowing that a lot of your players were really frustrated at times with, you know, the level of resources that we had?
Yeah, it was a difficult battle. Obviously, I'm the person who's the face of the team and making sure that the girls are getting what they deserve, and also managing the club part. You know, managing up was difficult. So, you know, when I came to the club, there was a promise of a training facility, training ground, women's only specific, that never, in year 3, that had never materialised. Then there became the challenges like we've just spoke about, sweeping snow off a pitch, you know, because we were training at Leeds Sports Village at the time. We had no groundsmen, no ground staff there, training in a gym underneath the stands that at times was, I think, about -2 in the winter. The bars were freezing. Like it just wasn't, for me, that's not conducive to a high performance environment. And when we're presenting to players and we're saying to players that we're the best club in the world on and off the pitch, then we need to be showing that in what we provide for our players. So it became a point where I just didn't feel the club was fulfilling that promise. I put forward my thoughts to the director of football and the CEO at the time, and just said, listen, like, we're going for Champions League. We're in a position where we can achieve it. And at one point we didn't have a pitch to train on. And I was just at the point where I just thought, I cannot go home and look at my 2 little girls every day and say that I'm fighting for what's right, You know, I want my little girls to know that I'm doing that. I've got a little boy too, but this is more about them and their game, and actually not do something about it. So I made the really difficult decision to resign, which was terrifying. I've got a family, I've got children. I'm the person that earns wages in the house. But I just felt at the time the club wasn't meeting what the requirements of the team needed and what the players deserved. We had moved to Carrington at one point, which was a huge shift, huge. Moving to Carrington, training on better pitches.
Great fields.
Having, having ground staff, being looked after. But then what we were changing, eating, everything in one room, which was difficult at the time. So we made the best use of the facilities that we had. The players did an incredible job. I have to say, like, very rarely moaned. Like, I was a bit like, you need to say a little bit more, you know, stand up a little bit more and come to me a little bit more and give me a little bit more of a fight to give the club. And in the end, it just became about like principles, and I'm very principled, and I want to make sure that I'm always doing what I can to improve the game. So I made the difficult decision to resign, and stated in quite a long letter about the reasons why and what I think needed to improve. And I believe there have been quite a few measures now that have improved at the club, which I'm really pleased for, because it's such a huge club with so much potential.
Club. Yeah, it really is. And it's a special club. Like, it means so much to the fans across the world. So I think you definitely did your part. But I feel like when, you know, the club isn't meeting expectations, and you weren't asking for it all at once. Like, we weren't saying like, give us everything. Like, you were like, just let's feel like we're building something together. And if you don't have that, but you're doing your part and the club's not matching the same type of ambition, like, I mean, obviously there are places now in the world where that is happening. Yeah. So I think, like,
and selfishly, I did lean on you guys as well, because I was like, with what you've experienced in the game, your stature, coming to the club, the amount of shirts you sold for the club, you know, like, I was like, come on the journey with me, help me. I know we had a few meetings together with senior staff at the club, and I was like, listen, we have an opportunity here. I believe Manchester United could be one of the greatest clubs in the world. I really do. With the right support, right resources, I really do. I think with its global brand power and the players that have grown up supporting the club, that would want to play for the club, like, it's just... I loved my time there. I wouldn't change it. I thought I had an incredible experience there. I thought the players that I worked with were incredible. I just had to do what I had to do at the time to try and get them to listen.
Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite segment, our favorite segment, Community Questions. Kristen from Los Angeles wants to know, tell us one special fact about your outfit.
How does Kristen spell her name?
Christen.
Wow. One fact?
Yeah.
Well, I have carpets on carpets. My shoes are made out of vintage carpets on our carpet. The other one is I have a zipper that goes from the front to the back.
Oh, I'm so happy we started the show this way. Okay, go ahead.
Diana from the Bay Area wants to know, since Tobin answered what her favorite goal of yours was, what is your favorite Tobin goal? Wow, I really don't know the answer to this.
Well, something came to mind, but it wasn't for the style of it. It was for the moment of it. Do you remember when you got injured at Manchester United and were preparing for the Olympics and we didn't know if you were going to be able to make it? And I told you that you just had to try, and you were like, I hate that. I don't want to try and fail because I never fail at anything. And I was like, but it'll be so beautiful if you try and fail. And then you tried, and of course you didn't fail. And the very first time you got subbed in was the game before we left for Japan. And somehow you scored from like the center circle. Do you remember that goal?
I do. I remember it. Yeah.
And
it was like raining.
Yeah. And it was a hard tournament in the end. But that moment was like, so full of hope, you know?
That was a special one.
A light in a dark time.
Oh, I really didn't know what you were going to say there.
Was that the last goal that you scored for the national team? I just recalled the most recent one.
No, I did. I scored a goal in the victory tour of that. And that was the last goal I ever scored. And the last game I ever played. I think.
It's got dark. Okay. Magda from Poland asks, what's your favorite holiday?
The Grinch.
Honestly, if you all knew how many times a day she does that.
Of course, I love Christmas.
Yeah, you do.
I love Christmas.
I mean, every year we say we're not going to get gifts, and then
it's ridiculous.
Then Tobin wants a whole pile of presents under the tree just for the
aesthetics. I don't actually want the gifts. I just want it to look like a lot of gifts.
No, you love gifts. This is when you start to lie about your personality. She's like, I don't really want the gifts. Then she does want the gifts. And she's like,
good at
it's not for the gifts. It's for the aesthetic. And then she opens every gift with such delight.
Well, you get me really nice
Even
gifts.
If I get you something terrible, you treasure it for the rest of your life.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. So I like Christmas.
Yeah. I'm more of a birthday gal.
Wait, you could pick your birthday as a holiday?
Yes.
Birthdays are holidays?
This is our world. This is the recap show. We get to make everything up as we go.
I feel like there's a better holiday that I can't think of right now. Myra from Syracuse asked, if you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, I'll do you one better, Myra. Tobin, you answer that for me.
It's that one song that's like really sad that that you sing kind of angrily. Is it like a Sheryl Crow song or something?
I don't know. There's so many. Natalie Merchant?
Yeah. Or like Mario. What's that one song that you really like?
Wow, you went with two totally different vibes.
Or like a Tracy Chapman song. Getting Closer? Am I getting closer? Oh, give me a hint.
No, that's good. That's good.
I mean, Adele, she's really into One and Only right now.
Yeah, that's just a vibe for the moment, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Ja Rule and Ashanti with your best friend.
Well, Myra, I hope you enjoyed Tobin going down memory lane.
Wait, you have to answer it though.
One song for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
I feel like music's more of
the
like
moment.
Yeah, it's almost like the nostalgia that comes from every song, and you need different songs for different moments.
Yeah.
That's why your answer was quite appropriate.
Thank you. But somebody did so you had an Instagram post recently of like what is they call like a photo dump.
Mm-hmm. That's what they call it.
Carousel. And your caption was a reference to another song.
I think it was a reference to Gwen Stefani, but I think that was the name of her whole album.
Oh, an album. Well, anyway, people thought that was...
I loved Gwen.
Yeah, Gwen was a moment, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anna from Georgia wants to know, if you could live anywhere in the world outside of LA, where would you choose and why? I wish I got this question.
New York or London. Easy, come on. That was easy.
And why?
New York, because it's the best city in the world, and it's close to my family.
Angelinos.
And London, because I feel like it's like our second city home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I claim New York, you claim LA, but we both claim London.
Yeah. More specifically, Hampstead and the Heath.
The Heath.
And the Ladies' Pond.
You claimed the Ladies' Pond. You claimed the Ladies' Pond.
Thank you all so much for your questions. If you want to get your question on the show, you can join our membership. It is a global community of reimaginers. We love sports. We love changing the world. We are actually having a Black Friday sale coming up, and there are special perks for our members. So check it out. And thanks for the questions. I think it's probably the thing that Tobin and I are most proud of, even like going to Manchester United and fighting for better, not because we won, because I don't think we did. No. Maybe we made some improvements here and there, but because I felt that under your leadership and kind of with our history, we were able to show a way forward. And I do think that that spirit, I think, lives on, you know, within players. And I remember, you know, obviously we had hundreds of meetings for equal pay when we had our lawsuit with US Soccer. And we were so also jaded and so experienced in that. And then the freshness of a young group that had never advocated for themselves. And we're having some of these same meetings. And it was really meaningful.
It was.
And now to see the game in England just skyrocketing with fans and media deals, it's really exciting.
Yeah, because even in those like, you know, like meetings like that we had, it was kind of like giving value again, you know, kind of giving the playbook that we had in our fight to a new group in a new part of the world, and giving them like a little bit more of a voice, and having them understand their own value, and having them understand that if they weren't finding value somewhere, that you can get up and leave.
That's the big thing for me that I experienced quite differently in England, was from my individual experience in the US, was so much about me knowing my value, me feeling it, me saying it, like I almost overcompensated, like I'm the best, but like I felt that that's what you were able to really like role model, was that, even in a culture that I did not see a lot of women standing up being like, we deserve better fields, but you did, and you kind of had that, and you were kind of like, a little bit of a standout, or like, an oddball of sense of like that you actually knew yours. And that's like when you made a decision to step away and say we deserve better. That's what it like modeled for everybody. And I think that that's really special. And coming over then to San Diego and playing and coaching in front of coaching for a lot of very confident players, and in front of these fans that have that same value. It's not just the players, it's our community here that really embraces us as queer women, as women that stand up and use our voices. What was that like to experience the culture shift?
Yeah, it was very different. I think one of the big things, like you said, was I don't think in England like players knew their worth because they've never been given it.
Yeah.
They've never been given worth in the women's game. They've always been second fiddle, even probably after the under 12 boys or under 10 boys. So they didn't know their worth. I think coming here, that was a big shift. And also to be part of a club that wasn't attached to a men's identity, to stand alone, to sell out a 32,000 seater stadium, to have the fans there for those players and only those players, and that crest and that club, so unique, so special. And it shows it can be done.
Yeah.
You can stand on your own.
Yeah.
And with your own worth and your own value, you can sell your own tickets, you can make your own money. That was really, really special. And one of the things I did a lot of calls and spoke to coaches that worked over here and educate myself about the players. And it kept coming back to me there's quite a lot of entitlement. There's quite a lot of entitlement. There's quite a lot of entitlement. And I was like, okay, but what's entitlement and what's knowing your worth?
Wow.
And separating that between the two, because I think what players here have done is some, not all. Obviously, we have some big players in our team that knew their worth, and actually that's a guiding light sometimes for the others who don't know their worth. And just kind of separating what's entitlement and what's how many of them know their worth, and and then separating how many of them have had really poor experiences in the NWSL, and then how can I just come here? And one of the biggest things, my objective coming here was, how do I give them a different experience than they've had before? And it wasn't always about, I want to win. But I want to win doing it the right way. I want to win them knowing that they've been looked after and cared for, and we've done it together. So it was very different culturally coming here, very different. And also the backgrounds of the players. So I don't have a degree. I don't come from money. And a lot of the English players wouldn't have done that. And what we do, part of the clubs that I work in, we share our backgrounds and our stories and where they've come from. And when you're listening to a story in England, very normal, it's not a rich sport. You don't have to have money. It's grassroots, and you get into academies. And I come here, and then it's like, well, I went to the lake house in the summer that we owned, and we went here, and I'm like people were training to be surgeons. I had so many intelligent, articulate, players that were far more educated than me in terms of education. And I was like, right, okay, how do I lean into this? How do I make sure that I'm teaching them in a way that they can understand? Because some of them are really book smart, some of them not so life smart. So I was like, okay, we can work both ways here. So very different backgrounds coming into the game.
That's super interesting.
Understanding that and knowing that there was a lot of parental pressure going into kids here playing the game. It's all about getting into college, then being all about being the best, the best. And then all of a sudden they come out of college, out of their draft into my team, and it's the first time they've not played or not been part of the squad. And it's their first experience. So I'm like, right, how do we... So we used to have rookie workshops once every 4 weeks. I'd do the first one, then Lorna would come in, our player wellbeing, and she'd be with them and she'd talk through it, and we'd talk through, how do they recover from setbacks? Because they hadn't even built any resilience. They've been the best in every team they've been in. And then they come into the NWSL, bang, first setback. So how do we support them there?
So cool that you did that.
Then we brought in finance, because like, how do you understand money and dealing with that and stuff like that? And just trying to work with them, because it's a different experience here, you know, because they've been the best and they've been told they've got to be the best.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm telling them they're not the best.
Yeah.
And how do I help support them out of the back of that? So very, very different, but I think you have to adapt to the culture you're in, not expect the culture you're in to adapt to you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that.
So should we get to the news that shocked the world?
Yes. Well, it's funny because you said you were coaching not just to win, you know, coaching people, but you still won a lot. You were coach of the year. You won the Shield. You know, first year, first expansion team to ever make the playoffs, you know, in their first year, like just a lot of like win. You won a cup even the first game of the season this year, right? So I would say in terms of results and achievements, you came to the US and you did a lot of winning. You did a lot of what we love here. And then midway through the season, what I think was really shocking to all of us and just seemed
shocking,
fast and confusing was obviously you were let go by San Diego. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, it was fast and quite shocking for me personally too. We played a 3-game week on the road. I think we played Washington, Gotham, Houston. I had flown home for personal reasons. On landing, I found out I'd lost my job. Obviously, with that comes challenges because it's not just me, it's my family too, you know, and unfortunately it terminated our visas with immediate effect and just left us with challenges as a family from there. So
that's just so insane. That is so insane.
It was tough, really tough, like personally, professionally. Obviously.
So were you with your family in England?
I wasn't, no.
So they were in San Diego?
They were in England, but in a separate location. So I actually wasn't with them, unfortunately.
But like all your stuff was still in.
Yeah, everything was here. We were there. So that obviously provided us with challenges. I was disappointed. You know, it's the first time I've lost my job.
Did you get to speak to the players?
No. Wow. No, unfortunately not, because I couldn't get back.
I mean, I just want to say this to us. When we heard that you had gone fired, like I would have been like, you're joking. Like you had so much success. Like there was just no reason. Like you could have gone on and had a losing season for the whole entire season, and I still would have said she's the right person for the job. Like absolutely. Yeah. So I just like, for me, it like the math doesn't math on your firing, and like I'm upset about it because I think for the NWSL too, and a marketplace like San Diego that stood for a lot of the things that we cheer for, for me, that isn't like to lose you was not okay in our league. Yeah. Like obviously you'll be
listen, I'm super proud of like what we achieved as a club. Like first season we made the semifinal of a playoff, like as an expansion team. Like we had defender of the year, goalkeeper of the year, like rookie of the year. Like we developed players and people, you know, like we got people like Naomi made her first cap. Taylor Corniak made her first cap. Like these are proud moments for us as a club. Second year, I'm going to say we won the league because that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And obviously we didn't progress past the semi-final, which was disappointing for us as a club. I think we could have done better in that moment. Then we win the cup, and then, you know, we went 5 draws, 2 losses, and results were the reason why, unfortunately, I was let go. So, yeah, like, I value my experiences at San Diego greatly. Like I worked with some incredible people, players. I learned so much. The league is incredible. It really is.
You love it? You're hooked?
I love it. It's way more stressful than England. Like you're not going to sit there comfortably on any game.
Yeah.
Like there was
games, when you're sitting on a cooler, it can't be very comfortable.
It's more comfortable for my back than standing up. So it was like, you know, in England you could play certain teams and you'd be like, oh yeah, where 2, 3, 4, we're comfortable, we've got control. That just doesn't happen here. Even at 2-0, you're like, we got to make sure.
Do you like that as a coach?
No, I hate it. I'm like, can we keep control of the ball? Can we keep possession? Can we possess the balls even when we're 2-0 up? So we just kill the game with possession. Like, no. And it's super stressful. It's the hardest league to work in the world because of the travel and the amount of games. You know, and it's thick and fast, and like you're traveling 6 hours to play a 90-minute game. Like, you think about that, you're a Champions League team effectively.
That should be that should be the NWSL slogan. NWSL, thick and fast.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 6 hours on a plane, 90-minute game.
6 hours on a 90-minute game. I like that one too. But, we got something here.
But it's so exciting. It's the most competitive league in the world. Like, the fans are incredible. Like, we sold out stadiums like constantly, and they really got behind the team. They're incredible, and you know, like I said, I'm proud of what I achieved. You know, we went through a little blip. Do I think I could have turned it around? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I do.
I mean, you must be busy with a lot of job interviews.
I will say, I am waiting for the right opportunity, led by the right people.
As you should. You deserve that. And I think all the things that, like, kind of the part that you said, like, I learned more from what I didn't like, is something that you can take into, you know, assessing the next environment that you go into.
Yeah, for sure. And now it was life-changing for us to come here. You know, we spent 22 months apart as a family to make this work. So when I first came over, Megs and the kids didn't come for 22 months, like different issues with visas and stuff. And then they got here and they weren't even here a year. So it was like, right. And then obviously we were in the UK for 4 months, and then we managed, luckily, to get a sponsor to get us back. So we're now back because we made a decision, like, within 2 weeks of me losing my job, that we're going to do what's right for the kids here. And if we just stay in England, we can put them into school here. But then if I get a job, we're going to have to move again. Yeah. So whereas if we just go back to San Diego, get some normality back, they go back into school, then if I get a job, it's one change rather than two. So we did and also, who doesn't want to live in San Diego? Yeah. You know, they love school. They've gone back in like they haven't been away. So, and then it's like I can just, you know, take my time a little bit and make sure that whatever's next is right for me and for the family.
Life of a manager. I have heard a saying that, like, you're not really a manager until you've gotten sacked.
Apparently so. So maybe I'm a manager now.
Well,
Welcome. Welcome. You're a manager too.
No. Enjoy, I should
say. So when you're thinking about what's next, do you want to stay in a league like the NWSL? Or are you assessing, obviously, you've coached in the WSL, you've had success there. I'm sure they'd love to have you back. But is there a part of now being here that you feel like you're not done yet here?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've got unfinished business. Like I said, I love the league. I love its competitiveness. I think I can be successful here. I think I've proved that.
Yeah, you've proven it.
I think I've proved that. So I think, yeah, for sure. I think the NWSL is a growing league. It's going to continue to grow. I know people talk about the WSL, but I'm like, yeah, but look at the NWSL and look at the crowds and the amount of money that's coming in and the revenue and the type of owners that are now coming in, you know, and the credibility of those owners that are coming into certain clubs. I think that's really exciting for the game.
Yeah, I used to always say that when I was thinking about going to college or, you know, playing overseas, like, you don't necessarily always have the opportunities to go and do something new, but you can always go home.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like you're still so early in your career, which is going to be absolutely incredible. I'm sure of it. But I think it's really cool that you've come over here, and we've, you know, had other English coaches that have come over here, and there's something about this league that is like, once you get a taste of it, it's a little bit like a drug. You're like, I hate it, but I need some more of it. It's exhilarating. Like, there's something about it. And the league is, like you said, growing exponentially, and having independent ownership is something so powerful. And I think for us, like, the authenticity and trust in this league is like a big part. Like you said, gaining the trust of the players. It's also gaining the trust of the fans, and the communities. And I think, like, for you being a queer woman, like for us having a family, like, people can see themselves in you in a way. Like, I never had a coach that I could see myself now, like, as that's something that I could be like, you know. And I think you're such a great example of that in your professionalism, in your respect for the game, for the players, that any club in this league would be really proud of, not just the coach that they would be getting, but the person that they'd be getting.
+1.
+2.
Thank you. You're buzzing back yourself.
So, were you surprised by any of the semifinal matchups, the results?
I thought Gotham would win, to be honest. With the amount of injuries Washington had, I thought Gotham had enough in the tank to win. So, and even when it went to penalties, I thought they would win. And then I saw the penalties.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. A lesson on how to not penalty. You know what was shocking for me in that game? The amount of outside back substitutions that happened for Gotham.
Yeah.
Like,
that one can't deal with her, so we'll change that one. And then, and then I was just like, Bernini, I was like, come on, you've come into the game and then you've kind of let your team down by getting 2 silly bookings and getting sent off, and now you're down to 10. And I was like, it was bizarre. And I also thought the penalties, I'm like, you've all gone the same way.
Yeah.
Poorly, 3 times.
Well, at some point, you just want to change the energy. Yeah. The first 2 missed, just go the other way. And if you want to go this way, at that point, I'm just shooting right.
I have a question for you as a coach. When, obviously, I don't know what Rose's, like, minutes are. So, like, you can never say, like, if it was a, like, substitution. But, like, you keep her on the field.
You don't know. This is your last game. If you don't win, it's your last game. So
if she's a question,
she answered my question. Like, you better be like, even if Roosevelt is hobbling on the field, I'm like, I'll just put her in an area that everything's going to be okay. Because at the end of the day, I want my players that are going to decide the game still to be on the field.
Yeah, and also they still have to worry about her if she's on the field.
Yeah.
So you have to have a little bit more defensive security.
I was like, make it make sense. So, okay, so you thought Gotham was going to go through. They didn't. What about the other game?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was a bit disappointed with the quality of the game.
Me too. I said the same thing.
Said the same thing.
Yeah, I was a bit
compared to the other one too.
I was a bit disappointed. I thought there was quite a lot of turnovers that didn't need to happen. And yeah, it was, I'll be honest, like once Chawinga got hurt in the first half, I think she just went out of the game. She disappeared in the second half, and she's so pivotal for them that if they haven't got her firing, they're not quite got the same. And obviously Labonta going off, I think, hurt them a little bit as well. And she brings a little bit more creativity that they lacked. And listen, Banda's good, but if you're going to try and step in and pinch it on the wrong side, she's going to roll you and score, you know? So
like a center back.
Yeah, as a center back coach and a center back there.
Don't you also think that like when you're defending a Banda, like I wanted the players to learn how to foul without being a yellow card. Yeah. Like as soon as she's back to you and she's anywhere like in the center circle, just foul her.
Yeah. Early before she gets turned. Yeah. So it's not a yellow.
They literally backed off, allowed her to turn, and then allowed her to run at them.
And now you've got a foul because now you're pulling her down.
And now you're getting a yellow card.
100%. And then if you're around the box, you've got to keep her a yard away because she's strong. She's going to roll you. You don't get tight. But I thought, the last 10 minutes had me. I was like, oh, now we're talking.
That's the NWSL.
This will be like NWSL 3-3. I'm like, this has got it written all over. It got a little bit too late.
It got really weird.
But I was like, Orlando just needed to keep the ball more and see the game
I think they like almost had the time wrong in their minds because they were acting like it was like a minute left, but they had 12 minutes left.
Yeah. I have to say though, I think Orlando have done such a great job. Like I think Hayley going in there as GM's done a great job with their recruitment and whatever they've done off the field, and Seb's done a great job with the team. So it'd be interesting to see now like what happens in the final.
What do you think?
Yeah, what do you
What's
think?
your prediction?
I'm going to go Orlando. I just think Washington is still missing so many key players like Sullivan, Croy, Saar missing. They're such pivotal players in their team that, and I'm like, can you keep coming from behind? I don't know. Like maybe they've got mentality, but I have to think Orlando have got a little bit more of a rounded package. I think to
I don't know if
it.
anyone has ever won the Shield and then won the playoffs.
No, I don't think it has been done
that would
yet.
be a first.
I think it will happen.
Yeah, you've been predicting Orlando for a long time.
But you know, Banda did go off with an injury. And I said, if there's no Banda, it definitely goes to Washington.
Yeah, it changes things because I think you need difference makers in your team. She's a difference maker. Trinity's a difference maker. If they lose Banda and they keep Trinity and she plays well, I think that could be the difference between the two.
Are there any markets, if there was no coaches around, there's no people, are there any markets that you would want to coach in?
English speaking only. I
That's such a diplomatic answer.
Really though, that's interesting.
Would you ever go national team?
Not yet, I don't think. I don't know. Like it'd have to be the right national team, right opportunity. I like to be day to day at the moment with players and on the grass and working. So yeah, there are definitely markets I wouldn't coach in. So, but there are some that are definitely
the cold and rainy ones.
Cold and rainy, or too hot or too humid.
I mean, I think I told you this when you went to
that
San Diego.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, we have a big country, but that does narrow it. We have everything here.
Yeah.
When you went to San Diego, I was like, literally, you're going to one of the best places like in this country. I mean, there's only downhill from that.
I know once you've lived there, it's like you can't really everything. We were home for 4 months and we were like, oh, rain. Like you wake up and it's sunny and then it's raining and you're like, I don't even know what to wear anymore. So yes, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, are you itching to get back?
I am now. Yeah. I think I wasn't at first. I think I needed time to process what had happened and kind of learn from what had happened and put it in a place that it needs to be, and it's in that place now. And now I'm like, I'm in a place where I'm ready to go again.
Yeah. Well, we are excited to see where you go next. Thank you so much for being on our show. What a delight!
Thanks for having
Class act, Casey Stoney. Want more of the recap show? Never miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.